CIPSA artifacts. There are 3 artifacts in the CIPSA framework. They are product backlog, CIPSA backlog, and CIPSA integrated increment. First is product backlog. It is a single product backlog and it is available for all Scrum teams or Kanban teams. This product backlog must be detailed, emerging, estimated, and prioritized or ordered. The dependencies, especially for higher order items, must be clearly understood and minimized. Both are important. The dependencies should be clearly understandable for the teams or the individual teams, and it should be minimal. The product goal is part of the product backlog. So as you can see, this is the product backlog and the product goal is part of the product backlog. All these items are the product backlog items. The high order items will be fine grained or clearly defined. The low order items will be coarse grained or less clearly defined. The chief product owner is accountable for the product backlog, its content, availability, return on investment on the items with priority order. So the items which will give you the highest ROI will be towards the top of the backlog. Next, the other artifact is the CIPSA backlog. Mark the wording, I am saying the CIPSA backlog. The CIPSA backlog is a combination of product backlog items from the team backlogs which are used by individual teams. Now this wording might sound a bit confusing for you. So what is happening, from the product backlog we are taking some of the top order product backlog items and that is pulled into another backlog. That backlog is called a CIPSA backlog. Now the CIPSA backlog will be for the entire CIPSA team. The CIPSA team is a combination of all individual teams. From the CIPSA backlog, some of the items, maybe 1 or 2 items, will be taken to individual team from where the team backlog will be prepared. So what I am saying is, first you will have a product backlog. From the product backlog, some of the top order items, we are going to take it and pull it into the CIPSA backlog. Now the CIPSA backlog, all these items are taken from the product backlog. Now some of these items, maybe first 2 items, will pull it into a team A backlog, 2 items. Another item to team B backlog. Another item to team C backlog, and so on. If you have 3 teams, combination of 3 teams team backlog will constitute the CIPSA backlog. The dependencies between the teams should be noted in the CIPSA backlog, not in the product backlog. The CIPSA goal is part of this backlog. Like product goal is part of the product backlog, similarly the CIPSA goal is part of the CIPSA backlog. The CIPSA team uses the CIPSA backlog to inspect and adapt during the CIPSA daily stand-ups, which is a meta event. In certain management parlance, this backlog can be referred to as the program backlog. So as you can see, we have the CIPSA sprint backlog. The CIPSA sprint backlog is an example when the Scrum framework is used, and there we'll have the CIPSA sprint goal. Normally or typically speaking, irrespective of any framework being used, we'll call it as the CIPSA backlog, and the CIPSA backlog will have the CIPSA goal. As I said, from the product backlog, CIPSA backlog will be prepared. From the CIPSA backlog, individual team backlog will emerge. The next artifact is the CIPSA integrated increment. Mark the wording, integrated increment, not individual increment or just increment. The increment which is an integrated one. The integrated increment is the sum of all integrated work completed by all the teams. You have 5 teams, there will be 5 increments. All these increments together will be called as the CIPSA integrated increment. When the definition of done meets the CIPSA backlog item, an integrated increment is born. So the definition of done will be the commitment for the integrated increment. With every integrated increment, the CIPSA team moves towards or moves closer towards the product goal. The CIPSA integrated increment is inspected in the CIPSA review event. So this is another meta event in which the integrated increment will be reviewed.